Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where truth is buried beneath silence, and sometimes even fame can't shield you from darkness. Tonight, we revisit a chilling case from the world of professional wrestling. Chris Benoit, a man admired in the ring and feared for what unfolded outside it. Clue question: what detail from Benoit's past may have signaled what was to come? In June of 2007, a quiet Georgia suburb became the scene of a devastating triple tragedy. Professional wrestler Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their 7-year-old son Daniel were all found dead. What initially appeared to be a break-in would soon unravel into something far more disturbing. It was Monday, June 25th, 2007. WWE officials, growing concerned after Benoit missed weekend events and a pay-per-view appearance, contacted local law enforcement. No one had heard from him since Saturday. At his Fayetteville, Georgia home, police made a harrowing discovery. The house was eerily silent. No signs of forced entry, but inside, tragedy lingered in every corner. Upstairs, they found Nancy Benoit bound at the wrists and feet, wrapped in a towel, dried blood on her back, and signs of strangulation. Nearby, Daniel, just 7 years old, lay lifeless in his bed, reportedly drugged, then asphyxiated. Lastly, in the basement weight room, hung the body of Chris Benoit, suspended from a lat pull-down machine using a cable. A Bible was reportedly placed beside each of the 3 bodies. What emerged in the hours that followed was not a tale of burglary, but something darker, something far more personal. According to investigators, the events had unfolded over 3 separate days, with chilling premeditation. As the wrestling world reeled, fans, friends, and family were left asking, how could this happen, and what signs had they missed? Nancy Benoit was no stranger to the wrestling world. Born Nancy Elizabeth Toffaloni, she entered the industry in the late 1980s under the name Woman, working as a manager and valet across multiple promotions. Known for her fierce presence and sharp charisma, Nancy carved a place for herself in a male-dominated field. She met Chris Benoit in the mid-90s during their time with World Championship Wrestling, and their professional relationship evolved into a personal one. By 2000, they were married. Friends described Nancy as intelligent, passionate, but also cautious, especially in recent years. Their son, Daniel Christopher Benoit, was just 7 years old. Described as shy but kind, Daniel enjoyed school, cartoons, and spending time with his parents. Allegedly, Daniel suffered from a medical condition, possibly Fragile X syndrome, though this has been disputed by family members. Regardless, he was a young boy caught in a devastating sequence of events no child should ever face. Nancy had reportedly filed for divorce in 2003, citing cruel treatment, but later withdrew the petition. A restraining order had also been filed and dropped. These events raised quiet concerns. Yet to the outside world, the family appeared intact. Those who knew the victims still struggled to reconcile the loving mother, the quiet son, and the life they lost behind closed doors. Chris Benoit, born May 21st, 1967, in Montreal, Canada, was a respected name in professional wrestling. Over a career spanning more than 2 decades, Benoit had built a reputation as a fierce technician, a quiet performer who let his work in the ring speak for itself. He held titles across multiple wrestling federations, culminating in a celebrated WrestleMania victory in 2004. But behind the accolades, something else was festering. In the months leading up to June 2007, colleagues observed unsettling behavior. Benoit reportedly became withdrawn, missed rehearsals, and sent cryptic texts. Some believed he was overwhelmed by the recent death of close friend Eddie Guerrero, who passed away in 2005. Others whispered about depression or deeper troubles. When authorities reviewed the crime scene and timeline, they quickly concluded that Benoit was the sole suspect in the deaths of Nancy and Daniel. Investigators cited no signs of forced entry, no third-party DNA, and a meticulously controlled environment as indicators that this was a double murder-suicide carried out over the course of 3 days. Theories emerged. Was Benoit suffering from severe mental illness? Was trauma from years of concussions a factor? Or had something inside him simply snapped? To this day, no other suspect has been seriously considered. The timeline was slow, deliberate, and chilling. Authorities later estimated that the murders occurred over a span of 3 days, beginning on Friday, June 22nd, and ending on Sunday, June 24th, 2007. The first victim was Nancy Benoit. Sometime on Friday evening, Nancy was attacked in an upstairs room. According to the Fayette County Sheriff's Office, she was tied at the wrists and ankles. Her body later found partially wrapped in a towel. Bruises suggested a struggle, but not a long one. She had been strangled, likely by cord or rope. Blood was found under her head, and an autopsy revealed injuries consistent with blunt force trauma, possibly sustained prior to the asphyxiation. A Bible had been placed beside her body. That night, Benoit reportedly remained in the home. The next day, Saturday, June 23rd, he turned his attention to Daniel. The 7-year-old was found in his bedroom. According to the autopsy, Daniel had been sedated with Xanax, rendering him nearly unconscious. He was then smothered, possibly with a pillow. Investigators believe he died without waking. Beside his bed, another Bible. Sunday arrived. For most, the world kept turning. But inside the Benoit home, the final act unfolded. Chris Benoit reportedly spent his last day making several odd phone calls and text messages, including to WWE colleagues. He left messages giving vague directions to his home and stated his address multiple times. Without elaborating, these messages would later trigger concern within WWE management. That evening, Benoit entered his home gym, slid a cord from the lat pull-down machine around his neck, added weights to ensure pressure, and took his own life. No suicide note was left, only a set of eerie text messages and his final online activity, searching for the Bible story of Elijah and methods of instant death. The scene was unsettling, methodical, and lacked any visible signs of forced emotion. According to reports, alcohol was found in the home, but not in Benoit's system. Toxicology revealed elevated levels of testosterone, suggesting possible use of performance enhancers or therapy. Despite the graphic nature of the crime, the layout of the scene indicated premeditation, not impulsivity. The placement of Bibles, the 3-day span, the lack of signs of outside involvement. To law enforcement, this wasn't a chaotic explosion of violence, but a calculated unraveling. And the wrestling world, upon learning the details, began grappling with a far darker question. Not just how it happened, but why. When police entered the Benoit residence on June 25th, 2007, their objective was initially a welfare check. But what they found led to a full-scale homicide investigation. Law enforcement quickly secured the scene, Detectives from the Fayette County Sheriff's Office began piecing together the timeline, room by room, body by body. The investigation leaned heavily on digital forensics. Benoit's text messages to friends and WWE colleagues sent early Sunday morning raised immediate red flags. His repeated address sharing, without explanation, prompted officials to investigate further. Police accessed cell phone records, computer logs, and security footage from nearby areas, searching for any signs of an outside party. They found none. With no forced entry, no missing valuables, and no other footprints, investigators came to a conclusion quickly. Chris Benoit had allegedly killed his family and then himself. Despite the methodical nature of the scene, forensic investigators faced significant obstacles. Decomposition had already begun by the time bodies were discovered, complicating toxicology testing. Nancy's body showed signs of blunt force trauma, but precise timing remained murky. Daniel's drug levels were high, but the source of the Xanax was never definitively confirmed. Some forensic analysts raised questions about the presence of synthetic testosterone found in Benoit's system. Was it a form of therapy or abuse? Was it legal or smuggled? Adding to the challenge was the lack of a suicide note. Psychological profilers found no writings, no confessions, only chilling Bible placements and online searches about instant death and resurrection stories. To this day, the exact motive remains clouded. But the physical evidence, forensic timeline, and absence of any third-party presence led authorities to close the case without seeking other suspects. The public's response was immediate and divided. In the wrestling community, disbelief turned into mourning, then into confusion, and finally, horror. Fans who once idolized Chris Benoit were left speechless. Online forums lit up with condolences, but also questions. Memorials and vigils initially honored all three family members. But once full details emerged, some began distancing themselves from Benoit's legacy. In Fayetteville, Georgia, neighbors were stunned. They described the Benoits as quiet, private, but never dangerous. Some spoke of unease after hearing of the Bibles by the bodies. Others whispered of unseen demons. A shared sense of betrayal settled in. Media outlets scrambled to cover the unfolding tragedy. Initial reports mourned the loss of a wrestling legend and his family. But within 24 hours, the narrative changed dramatically. News anchors began using phrases like murder-suicide and domestic violence. Graphic details emerged quickly. Talk shows speculated on causes, ranging from roid rage to CTE. WWE, caught off guard, aired a tribute show on the same day the bodies were discovered, but swiftly retracted their stance once facts surfaced. All Benoit-related content was removed from broadcasts, merchandise, and their website. The coverage sparked a nationwide conversation, one the wrestling world could no longer avoid. Though law enforcement closed the case as a double murder-suicide, theories quickly multiplied. One of the most prominent, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. Dr. Bennet Omalu and the Sports Legacy Institute examined Benoit's brain, concluding it was so severely damaged it resembled that of an 85-year-old Alzheimer's patient. Years of concussions, chair shots, and high-impact slams may have irreversibly altered his behavior. Another theory pointed to steroid abuse. Benoit's toxicology revealed elevated testosterone levels. Congressional hearings followed, examining WWE's drug policies. Critics argued the culture of physical perfection and silence had fueled a dangerous environment. Others questioned the Bible placements and Benoit's final web searches on resurrection and Elijah. Some speculated he had entered a delusional religious state. No other suspects were ever pursued. But these lingering theories suggest that this wasn't simply a man who snapped, but a tragedy years in the making. There was no trial, no charges, and no formal courtroom proceedings. But the legal ripple effects were profound. Nancy Benoit's family filed lawsuits against WWE, alleging the company bore responsibility due to its alleged knowledge of Benoit's mental and physical decline. These suits were later dismissed, but they reignited debates on corporate responsibility in contact sports. Congress held hearings on performance-enhancing drugs in wrestling, questioning Vince McMahon directly. WWE implemented stricter wellness policies, but for many, it felt too late. With Chris Benoit confirmed deceased, the case was officially closed in July 2007. Yet the legal and ethical questions surrounding it continue to echo through both the wrestling industry and the public consciousness. Even now, unanswered questions remain. Why were Bibles placed next to each victim? What was the real motive? Rage, delusion, illness, or all three? And most hauntingly, could anything have prevented it? Some former wrestlers claim signs were there: Benoit's withdrawal, erratic behavior, and emotional breakdowns. But others insist no one could have foreseen this ending. Without a note or direct confession, we are left with fragments and an echoing silence where answers should be. The timeline is clear. The method is documented, but the truth behind why remains elusive. The Benoit case transformed professional wrestling forever. In the aftermath, WWE erased Benoit from broadcasts, documentaries, and records. Drug testing policies were revised. Head trauma research intensified. Outside the ring, the case fueled discussions about mental health, domestic violence, and the hidden toll of fame. Nancy and Daniel's memory now exists in a shadow, tied to a tragedy that challenged an entire industry. And though the wrestling world moves on, the Benoit name will forever mark a turning point. So now we ask you, what detail from Benoit's past may have signaled what was to come? Could a different turn of events have changed everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true crime breakdowns. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.